Sigali swagwig, si. So hello everyone, I'm si. Today we're going to talk about the U stem. So U stem, subjective and objective pronouns. So this is the last stem in what we call the second section or unit 2, which is studying pronoun changes. So the first 3 videos that you've watched that cover the A, the C, and the O stem. This is going to be the last video of that section in the booklet, in the curriculum book. So this is the U stem. It's going to cover the subjective and objective pronouns. So let's get into it. Hopefully you are becoming more familiar with the patterning system of every stem. And so this should go by a little bit easier, a little bit quicker as you're more familiar with it. All right, so learners should know the U stem, subjective and objective pronouns. You should know the associated meanings of the pronouns for the U stem, subjective and objective. Please use your Oneida Language Department curriculum books as needed. Sometimes we call them the first 6 months curriculum. It might also say Oneida 1 on them. That is a fundamental language booklet curriculum that we use for new learners that are working towards proficiency. So let's get into a little bit of review. So the pattern system meanings, again, all of our pronouns that we learn in every single stem on both the subjective and objective sides have the exact same meanings. Remember, there are patterns within the meaning chart. This creates a standard for our pronoun patterning system. And when we get to verb conjugations, it just creates a standard of who we are talking about when we're making verb conjugations. So obviously we're not going to use like the meaning chart in normal speech, but this is simply to help give you a foundation to help you acquire the language based on the fundamental aspects of Oneida. Okay, so eventually we get into more of a natural conversational approach down the line, but right now it's really helpful to have an organized standard of the pronoun patterns and also the meaning chart. Okay, so this will be a quick review. I'm actually going to go to the next one so that I can reference the patterns. So remember, there's always 3 columns. First column is 1 subject, second column is 2 subjects, third column is 3 or more. So they are related down in columns by the number of subjects. They are related across in rows depending on the relationship. So the first one across in a row, it says me and you, all of us. That's an inclusive relationship. Me, as a speaker, I am included in every one of those statements. Me and you, all of us. Okay, that is why the relationship is inclusive. The next one is exclusive. So it has to do with you, you two, or all of you. Okay, that is the relationship. The third row, him, 2 males, or a mixed group of a male and a female, or 3 or more males or a mixed group. Has to do with males, okay? Just know in the second and third column when you're talking about males, it could possibly be a mixed group also, but when we get to the 4th row, the relationship is females, that's feminine, okay? Her, 2 females, 3 or more females, and when we talk about 2 females or 3 or more females, it's strictly females, okay? And then the last one is doesn't really have a relationship. And so it's just she or it, but however, the second and third column has kind of a relationship, me and one other person or me and 2 or more other people. Okay, just a quick note about this her or a younger female. That is used in a lot of different ways than just her. This is a little bit more of an advanced meaning, I guess you could say. But whenever we talk about anything in creation, that is generally feminine. But it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's feminine. It can mean the gender unknown or any gender as well, depending on the usage. So it could be what if it's not specifically him, or say it was like him or her, you would just use the younger female pronoun. So I'll get a little bit more into that later on, but it's kind of a unique thing in our language. I would say also it's a gender inclusive aspect of our language. or maybe a non-binary aspect of our language. But just note, I would put a little star onto this because there is more to this than just what it says right now. Right now, the main purpose of this is to get you acclimated to the patterning system of the U stem and all the stems, but just a little star because there's always exceptions and different aspects of our language that come into play, and that her is part of that. Okay, so those are our meanings. Again, me, you, him, her, she, or it, me and you two males, two females, me and somebody else, all of us, all of you, three or more males, three or more females, me and two or more other people. Those are our meanings. Okay, practice this, write it out in English. I want you to know these. They're really important. It gets you to the next step in our learning. All right, let's move on. Again, we learn the subjective and objective pronouns of every stem. Subjective side and objective side are basically present like tenses, but they are used differently when we attach them to verb roots and we make verb conjugations. So what do they really mean? How are they really used? It's not necessarily that they're used the same way all the time, because they are not. It is all dependent on the verb. But this little chart gives you somewhat of an idea of how they might be used. So the subjective, we call that the serial. When we get into verb conjugations later on, I'm just going to call it the serial. So just get familiar with that terminology or usage right now. So subjective is generally representing a habitual action, like maybe I'm a musician, I'm an artist. Doesn't mean I'm playing music right now. It just means that that's something I do all the time. It's who I am. I'm a teacher. That is exactly what the serial is, okay, or a habitual action. So it can also represent things happening right now, and the objective as well. So the objective can represent things happening in the moment or a recent past tense, like he just got a haircut or I just got a haircut. It just happened. So that is a little overview of what is really the subjective and objective, the present like tenses. That's the main thing I want you to take away from this. Okay, let's move on. So let's talk about the U stem. That is the subject of this video. So if you watch the O stem video, you will remember that I mentioned that the O and the U stem are like sisters. They're sister stems. They have the exact same patterns. They're not the same stem. They are their own unique stems, but they have a relationship. They have similarities, and they have a pattern that is shared between both. Okay, so just be mindful of that. U stem, natinega-ig. What is this? Just FYI, a couple characteristics of the U stem. U stem root words will always begin with the letter U. Okay, so again, U stem pronouns, they are fixed. They are a prefix to a U stem root word or verb. So in our language, our Oneida language vowels, we have 6 of them. U is one of them, and the U has its own stem, which is the U stem. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about our pronouns. But again, why are stem pronouns important? Because they reference who we are talking about. So if I said study, we know that means sit, but it means a little bit more than that, because the SA, that's the pronoun, it means you. It means you sit. So we have to talk about who is being talked about. That's a subject. All right. So that's why they are very important. So I show this on every single video that I do because it's important. So stem pronouns, they are prefixes. They always go on the beginning of a verb. Remember, sometimes I use the words verb or root interchangeably. It's essentially the same thing when we talk about Oneida language, linguistical terminology in kind of more of a learner sense. So prefixes, the stem pronouns are prefixes, and those are attached to the root or verb at the beginning. So just like in this example, which is a U stem, gu is me, ungwehu is a U stem word because you see the U, it starts with a U. And if you put that together, gungwehu, it means I'm Oneida. So we see that when you look it up in the dictionary, this is like a lesson for another thing. When you look up words in the dictionary, either the one we have here in Wisconsin or the one from Canada, you'll always see verbs have this dash and then this is the root. So it's dash and whatever your first letter is, and then sometimes it's another dash. Those dashes mean that that's generally a verb or the root, but that those roots are not used by themselves. Roots are generally never used by themselves, except there's like one little exception, which is ungwehu. But every other verb, it's never used by themselves. The dashes mean that something is going to go where that dash is, and that's usually the pronoun. And the dash at the end usually means there's some type of ending. So if this is a verb, when we get into verb conjugations, there's also endings that come into play. So that's all that is. That's just kind of like a little bit of a visual way to see how words put together. Obviously, we don't like do this when we're talking about a natural approach to learning or speaking our language, but this is helpful for developing proficiency as you are a beginning learner. Okay, so it gives you context too. If you do know some things about Oneida, it'll make more sense about what you know. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about the subjective and objective pronouns. So I'm going to go through them and I want you to repeat them. So I'm going to say the pronoun. I want you to repeat it on your end as you're watching. This is the subjective. Okay, so first pronoun: goo, zoo, lu, yagu, you, nu, snoo, nu, gnu, yugnu, diu, ju, lanu, gunu, yugyu. All right, that's our subjective. Meanings are on the screen. We've gone over this for a few different times in the previous video, so you should be familiar with this. Whatever pronoun is in that space, that's the meaning. So goo is me, zoo is you, lu is him, yagu is her, you is older she or it, and so on. Okay, so let's go to our objective pronouns. So the pronoun, I'll say it and I want you to repeat it as you're watching along to practice the pronunciation. So the first one: wagu, zoo, lau, yagao, yao, yungnu, snoo, lonu, yonu, yungnu, yungyu, ju, lonu, yonu, yungyu. All right, so that is our use stem objective pronouns. Again, same meanings. Whatever pronoun is in that spot, that's your meaning. So wagu is me on the objective side, zoo is you, lao is him, yagao is her, yao is older she or it, and so on. Okay, so those are our meanings. Pretty easy here, because we've been learning the meaning chart, and now you're kind of getting more familiar with stem pronouns, but also patterns. So I'm going to go over both of them. I'm going to start with the subjective. I want you to repeat the pronoun after I say it. I'm going to go through the subjective and objective. This is just more pronunciation practice. I always start with the first one, me, and then I move down to the first column, go to the second, go down, third, top of the third, and then go down, and then I'll do the objective. Okay, so that is my order that I'm going to go through them. That's generally how we go through them. For the most part, that's just a standard thing. If you haven't noticed, it'll be helpful for as the viewer. Okay, so subjective: goo, zoo, lu, yagu, you, nu, snoo, nu, gnu, yagnu, diu, ju, lanu, gunu, yugyu, wagu, zoo, lao, yagao, yao, yungnu, snoo, lonu, yonu, yungnu, yungyu, ju, lonu, yonu, yungyu. Okay, so those are our pronouns for both the subjective and objective of the use stem. Let's talk about patterns. This is the best part here. Okay, so what patterns do you notice for the pronouns, for the subjective, for the objective, and between both? Okay, let us look at those pronouns again. So I'll give you a few minutes. If you want to, you can pause, just be mindful. I just kind of go through it as I record the videos, but if you need more time, pause the video as you're watching it, take a screenshot of it, whatever you need to do to help you on your end. So take a look at these. What patterns do you see? There is a lot. There is a lot of patterns. Hopefully you are becoming more familiar with them. So let's talk about the patterns in the subjective. So first column, notice I also color code these patterns when I'm talking about them. Okay, so remember a K something will always indicate me in the subjective. All right, we see that K, the pronoun is gu. That something is the you of the stem. So that is gu. Okay, S something will always indicate you in the subjective. So that's zu. L's usually reference males. Okay, let's lu. Y's usually reference females. That's yagu. Second column, there's always a common ending. That common ending is different in every stem of the subjective side, but there is a common ending. Know the common ending, you'll know the pronouns. Okay, so the common ending here is nu, new. They all have this new. Look at the second column, new, snoo, new, gnu, yagnu. Okay. Third column, there's also a common ending, but it's only occurring in 3 pronouns, all of us, all of you, and me and 2 or more others, okay? So those pronouns would be du, ju, and yagyu. The last one, notice how all of the pronouns in the U stem subjective end in a U. Yes, okay. They all end in a U. That's important. Remember we talked about the O stem? They all end in an O. Let's check out the objective side. That's going to be the same rule. All right. Objective side, first column, a W-A-K, wug something, is always going to indicate me on the objective side. So we have wagu. Yes. S's usually reference you, S something. So it's zoo. Okay. Yes. L's usually reference males. Not the same as the subjective, but L's. That L pattern referencing males. Okay. Yes. Lao. Y's reference females. Yagao. Second column, remember that common ending follows to the objective side, but it's not in every pronoun, and the pronouns are not exactly the same. So just be mindful of that. We have nu, which is the ending, and you in yagnu, yungnu, snoo, and yungnu. The pronouns for me and you, all of you, or sorry, me and you two, and me and one other person. My bad. Pronouns for 2 males and 3 or more males, exactly the same. Okay. Same thing with the females. 2 females, 3 or more females, exactly the same. So we have lonu, lonu, yonu, yonu. Top and the bottom of the second column are exactly the same as well. Yungnu and yungnu. Okay. We'll talk about the patterns between the subjective and objective shortly. Just be aware of this pattern right now. Third column, remember our ending of yu, which was you, that follows to the same third column on the objective side. Yu occurs in yungyu, ju, and yungyu. In all of us, you all, and me and 2 or more others, okay? Top and bottom are the same in the objective side in the third column, yungyu and yungyu. And notice how all of the pronouns end in a U in the objective. All right. So let us talk about the patterns between the subjective and the objective side. Okay. L's usually reference males, not the same pronoun. Lu, lao. Okay. Y's usually reference females. Yagu on the subjective, yagao on the objective. Notice how yagnu changes to yungnu. Okay. So we have yagnu, it changes to yungnu. Y-A-K changes to a Y-U-K on the objective side. Same thing for yagyu. Yagyu, Y-A-K, changes to yungyu. And we know the top is the same. Same thing for the second column. Those are our patterns. All right. Common endings occur in the same columns for both the subjective and objective side. Just the pronouns are different. So yagnu is different than yungnu. Same endings though. Okay. Same thing with yu ending occurs in the same column. All right. The big pattern for the U stem is that every single pronoun in the subjective side and in the objective side end in a U. Okay. They end in a U. All right. That's important. So that is our U stem. So we're going through it a little bit more quickly. Hopefully you are becoming a little bit more familiar with this. Let me see if I can find my pen here so we can practice our activity to go over our pronouns here, okay? And so I will give you the first one. I want you to try to do this with me. I'll try to say the pattern and then I'll write the pronoun, okay? So subjective, I'll give you the first one. Goo is me. K something references me on the subjective. S is reference you. Pronoun is zoo. L's reference males. Pronoun is lu. Y is reference females. Pronoun is yagu. Older she or it, we have gu, zu, lu, yagu, yu, you. Common ending that occurs in the second column for the subjective of the U stem is nu, N-U. That's going to occur in every single pronoun. T-N-U, nu, me and you two, snoo. Just the ending here for two males, which is nu. Also, you can pause this too. I'm just kind of filling it in as I go, going over the patterns, but you could do the same activity that I'm doing here with your own practice, okay? So this is just to give you an idea for studying, learning. There's a lot of other things you can do. This is just one idea. Two females, gnu, K and U. Me and somebody else, our pronoun is yug, nu. All pronouns in the second column have the common ending, NU. Common ending in the third column is YU. It occurs in all of us, all of you, and me, and two or more others. Pronoun for all of us is DU. Yes. Pronoun for you all, or all of you, is Jew. TSYU. Okay, so when we learn the sound practice, we learned a lot about these types of sounds here. They're a little different than what you might know them to be in English. Whenever you see a TSY, it's going to be a J sound. Okay. Three or more males. Pronoun is L, N, U. Lanu. Three or more females. Pronoun is Gunu. Sorry, my writing is a little bad, but hopefully you can see it. So last pronoun, it's going to have that YU common ending. Yug. Yug you. Yug you. All right. Okay, so there's that. That's our subjective side. Now let's do the objective, and let me go to my next one. All right, so let me move this here a little bit so you can see. All right, so our first pronoun in the objective side for me is wagu. U, S is reference you, so pronoun is zoo. L's reference males, not the same as the subjective. It is lao. Y is reference females. Pronoun is kind of sounds like lao, but a little different. Yagao. It's going to have that AU ending. Pronoun for older she or it. These three kind of have like a little bit of a similar pattern in when we're talking about this AU. So lao, yagao, yao. When you study them, I would read them and I would say them out loud. Like if I was looking in the book, I would say wagu, zu, lao, yagao, yao. I would just go over that in my head a lot so I know the pronouns, because when you write them, then it'll come to you. You'll be familiar with them the more you review them. All right, so common ending is going to occur again in the second column in me and you two, and me and one other person. However, in the objective, remember, it's not going to be a YAK, it's going to be a YUK. We know that the top and the bottom are the same. Okay, so common ending, that's what I put these dots on here for NU, and then the X's are because these two pronouns are exactly the same. We know that it's going to be oh, here it is. Okay, sorry, I need my eraser. I was starting to draw A, but that's my bad. YUK, okay? So it's Jung Nu. Jung Nu. You two, exactly the same on the subjective side. So remember, zoo, snoo, and then this pronoun, They're all exactly the same on subjective and objective side. So that's really easy to fill in. 3 or more males and 2 males, which is in this column, those are exactly the same also, remember? So we can fill those in right away. Lonu and lonu. Yay. All right. Lonu, yonu is our next one. They kind of rhyme. It's not really a pattern, but it might help you to remember. So whatever you got to do to help you remember is always beneficial, I feel, in learning. So whatever you got to do. Yonu. So just fill those in right away. They're exactly the same. Remember, the top and bottom are the same. Yungnu and yungnu. Okay, awesome. So remember, there's a common ending in the third column, which is yu. That common ending is going to occur in all of us, all of you, and me and 2 or more others. All right, so if we look at this one in the second column, we know that, remember, we said it's always going to be a yuk in the objective plus our ending. This is a very helpful way to help us to remember. Yung, you. Same pronoun on the subjective side as it is on the objective side, which is ju. T-S-Y-U. Okay, we had lono. We already filled that in. Top and the bottom here and here are the same. So we have yungnu, or sorry, yungyu. I need to have more coffee. Yungyu and yungyu are exactly the same. That's our objective side for the U stem. Okay, awesome, great. Let's go and move on. We'll do a few different review activities, and that will be this lesson for today. So I only did them separately, but I would recommend you to do them also like side by side. So I'm not going to do it today, but I would do this the same exact activity, because remember, we talk about patterns, like these 3 are exactly the same on both sides. Remember, this one kind of is similar to this one, and then this one is similar to this one. We know that the top and the bottom are the same. Okay, so just, it might be helpful to do your charts when you do like the written practice of the pronouns side by side. I did them individually, but I would recommend you to do the same thing, but make them side by side and fill them in as you go. All right. So let's move on. I'm not going to do this one, but this is just another activity for you to do for studying. Let us, same thing. As you get more familiar with them, I would start and give yourselves the first one, or maybe you want to give yourself a different one on the chart. That's fine too. You don't have to start with the first one, but eventually I want you to do them blank, totally blank, no pronouns. Don't give yourself any pronouns. You should be getting more advanced and more familiar the more you study. Always remember too, the more you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So if you're only doing a little bit, or maybe you do it once a week, progress is going to be a little bit slower than if you do it every day. If you do it 10 minutes every day, that's a great starting point. Do what you can also. So just remember those 2 things. If you do it like an hour every day, you're going to have a little bit more faster progress. If you do it 8 hours a day, every single day, you're going to have a lot faster progress. Okay, so just keep that in mind, but also be aware that self-discipline is really important in this too. So at the end of the day, we are all responsible for ourselves. So I'm the teacher and I present all the tools and skills to you, but it is up for you. It's up to you to learn them and use them and apply them and be responsible for your learning. Okay, so I can only give them to you, but what is the saying? You can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's the same thing. Okay, so here is the presentation of the patterns and the tools, and it's up to you to use them. Okay, so that is one really important I think characteristic of successful learning and successful language learning is personal accountability and responsibility, and those are also very, very strong cultural foundational values in our ways. So it's all related. That's my TED Talk spiel for today. So all right, if anyone knows me, they know like this is exactly how I teach. So but I also enjoy a lot what I do. So there's one other thing I want you to look at first before we move on to another review activity. So like I mentioned, all the all the pronouns in the O stem end in an O. All the pronouns in the U stem end in a U. I said that they were sister stems. So let's talk about that pattern a little bit. Remember, we talked about the O stem, okay? So the black is the O's. We can see that they all end in an O. The red is just not the ending, but that's exactly the same in the U stem, okay? So everything ends in an O. What you can do, literally, to write the U stem is you can change all of these O's to U's because they are exactly the same. Okay, that's my pattern. That's what I'm my statement is that the O stem and the U stem are exactly the same. The only difference is the O stem, they all end in an O, the U stem, they all end in a U. So that means everything in the red is exactly the same in both stems. Okay, only the ending is different. And if you remember the pattern, everything ends in an O, you're going to be like halfway there and getting the pronoun correct. Okay, same thing with the U stem. You're going to be halfway there when you know everything ends in a U. Okay, so just know O stem, everything ends in an O. U stem, everything ends in a U, but they're interchangeable depending on which stem you're talking about. So if you know the O stem, you automatically know the U stem because you know everything just ends in a U. Okay, vice versa. So hopefully that made sense. I like to color code them initially when you're learning them so you can see the pattern that I'm talking about. But eventually, just know when you actually see stories like transcribed stories or written stories, they're not going to be like color coded or anything. And you're going to have to figure out the stem and the pronoun. But this is going to give you the skills to do that later on. Okay, so that's our O stem. That's our U stem. You can see our stems together. We learn the A stem, we learn the C stem, we learn the U stem, and we learn the O stem. So you can see the patterns when we're talking about a K something. In any subjective side, it's always me, ga in the A stem, K in the C stem, go in the O stem, gu in the U stem. Same thing with the objective, W-A-K, something is always me in the objective. So it's wugga in the A stem, wug in the C stem, wuggo in the O stem, wuggu in the U stem. Okay, so good pattern review. All right, let's do a couple of these and then we will be done with this video. So remember we did this review activity for the C stem and the O stem. So I'm going to give you the meaning and the subjective or objective side of the pronoun that I'm looking for, and I want you to write the pronoun. So natinatig means what is that? I'm not going to start with this one though. I'm going to start with this one. Okay, so she or it, older she or it, subjective pronoun. What is that? We're talking about the U stem now. Okay, so make sure your pronoun ends in a U. Pronoun is you, Y-U. All right. Oh, let me see. Clear. Okay, let's go to, I'm not going to do a ton of them this time, but I'll do a few of them. Let's do you on the subjective side. You stem. You can pause this too. Zoo. All right, let's do you too. Subjective pronoun. You stem. Pronoun is snoo. All right, let's do objective pronouns here. Let's do him. L's reference males, objective side. U stem, make sure it ends in a U. Pronoun is lao. Okay? Let's do 3 or more males for the objective side. What is the pronoun? Lonu. Let's do all of us. Objective side. So that's 3 or more people. So third column you're drawing from. Yungyu. Yes. All right, let's do like 2 more here. Let's do me. This should be easy. Me on the objective side is easy peasy. Wagyu. Wagyu. All right, wagyu. Okay, let's do one more. Let's do this one. Me and two or more other people on the objective side. So remember, when we're talking about objective pronouns, you gotta have that YUK, three or more people. We're talking about the subject of this meaning for this pronoun. So it's gonna have that YU ending. Pronoun is yung you. Awesome. Okay, let's move on to another activity. I'm actually going to give you now the pronoun. So you can just say this when I'm doing this activity, or you can write it down. Either is fine, whatever you prefer. Eventually, though, if you do start with writing it, I want you to work up to just saying it. You can quiz yourself too, or say you say it. I want you to try to write it, because to build proficiency in a language, you should be strong in all of those things. The comprehension, the listening skills, the oral skills, and the writing skills. Okay. So natinega e. Let's start with the first one. This one's really easy. I want you to indicate if this is a subjective or objective pronoun and the meaning. So you can write S or O, or you can just say it. This is a objective pronoun, O for objective, and it means me. All right. Let's do a couple more here. I won't do as many as I've done before, but I'll do a few. Okay, so lao, subjective or objective? It's objective. Pronoun meaning is, this is a singular male, him. All right, let's do this one. Yagu. Subjective or objective? Pause it if you need more time. Subjective. Meaning is her, a younger her. Yes, correct. Awesome. Let's do a few more here. Let's do this one. Gunu. Is this subjective or objective? Pause it if you need more time. Subjective. Meaning is three or more females. Subjective pronoun. Okay. Let's see here. Let's do this one. Diu. Is this subjective or objective? Pause it if you need more time. Subjective, meaning is all of us. All of us, yes. Or we. You can say we too. When we get into verb conjugations, we say we. But just know that we can be referenced differently in Oneida. It can be a we inclusive or it can be a we exclusive. Okay. This is a we inclusive because me as a speaker, I'm included in that. So that's inclusive. Okay. So Oneida is incredibly detailed. So that is, hopefully you're picking that up as you're learning these stems, which is very cool. It's a reflection of our highly advanced intellectual and philosophical worldview. So that's the second part of my TED Talk. So let's do a couple more. Let's do Yonu. Which one is that? Is this subjective or objective? Pause if you need more time. Objective. And we actually talked about the other pronoun on the subjective side. This is the pronoun on the objective side for three or more females. Okay. Objective, three or more females, or don't get tripped up. It can also be two females because the pronoun is exactly the same in the second or third column. All right. Awesome. Let's do one more. Let's do new. Let's do NU. Subjective or objective? Pause if you need more time. Subjective. Pronoun meaning is two males or a mixed group of a male and a female. Sorry, that looks like a Z. It's a two. There you go. All right. Okay, so where's my little? How do I get my? Okay, so trying to find my. There we go. Okay, so review. Learners should know the use stem subjective pronouns, the use stem objective, use stem subjective, use stem objective, the meanings of the subjective and objective pronouns, and the patterns of both the meanings and the pronouns. So that is the use stem. So you have learned all four, well, not all four, but half of all of the stems of Oneida, but you've learned all of this section. So we present them using the first four, and then later on we'll get into the last four stems. Okay, so this gives you a really good base of beginning to learn our language. The next video is going to cover real simple verb changes on how to use those pronouns with a very simple verb root, which we use to describe the different races of people in our language. Okay, so Toginik, so that's it. Nugiwa. I'll see you in the next video.